Welcome to TYT Sports, everybody. Dan Keston on the end. He's the EP at TYT Sports. Jason Rubin, Ben Mankiewicz here. Turks and Jerks. We're doing Jerks. Check out Turks. Also, we've posted that video. We posted Jerks. Now we're doing Turks. That may have been what I said. I may have just said the same thing twice. But this is Turks, or Turks of the Week. Jason.
I had two. One quick one was Charles Woodson getting his first interception.
Sure, Charles Woodson's on my list.
Peyton Manning, 39 years of age, I believe. Yes, he is. It's his 64th interception, which tied Ed Reed for 6th all-time.
Let me talk about interceptions for a sec. First of all, the second interception that Charles Woodson made was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Just phenomenal, because he was not even really close to that play. But thankfully now every Peyton Manning pass takes 12 or 11 or 12 seconds to reach the wide receiver, giving everybody a chance to get over there. But it was a great play by Woodson. A game, as we talked about in the Turk segment, the Raiders really had an opportunity to win, or more importantly, cover. Only Ed Reed, Charles Woodson, and Rod Woodson are the only modern players on that top 6 list.
You don't remember Night Train Lane?
Yeah, well, and the number one guy is Paul Krause, who's picked off 81 balls at DB for the Vikings, and I believe. And what's amazing about that, and I think, Dan, you'll agree with this, is that, when Paul Krause played, quarterbacks would routinely go 10 of 16 for 128 yards. I mean, teams ran the ball, and they ran, and they ran, and they ran. And now in an era where every quarterback is throwing 35 times, Eli Manning threw the ball over 50 times last night. And how is it the leader in picks still a guy from that era? They throw so much more now. The guys from the modern era should litter the pick list. It just tells you that a couple of things. Maybe those quarterbacks didn't throw back then because they were terribly inaccurate. Like, quarterback play is so good that they've doubled the number of throws and they don't throw any interceptions. But it's weird to see a guy from another, and he's way ahead. I mean, Charles Woodson has 64 picks. Paul Krause has 81. Charles Woodson's 81. Yeah. 81. He's not getting. Woodson's not getting 17 more picks in his career.
No, and unless he plays until he's 45 years old, which is
even so.
I mean, possibility.
He did have 2, and those 2 yesterday were huge picks.
Yeah, absolutely. And in addition, I think it's more that QBs have become more accurate. They've become better at throwing the football.
Clearly.
Overall, Aaron Rodgers is a great example of that, considering he threw his first interception and second interception. Granted, the first one was they need to change that statistic. That needs to be marked down somewhere. If you throw it to a receiver and it gets bobbled up and picked off, or deflected and picked, that is not an interception on the quarterback. That is the receiver's fault. It needs to be changed.
Well, I mean, the advanced metric stats will chart that.
And they should, but an interception should only be noted down to a quarterback.
So we need an official scorer?
Yes, we need an official scorer.
To give the error to?
Yes, exactly. I mean, look,
that's on James Jones, not on Aaron Rodgers.
Absolutely. If they're going to keep all track of it. Granted, football statistics, I don't think, tell enough of the story as other sports statistics can. An example of that being tackles, the most useless statistic in the history of statistics. But this is Turks. This is things we like, and now you're done talking about Charles Woodson. But that wasn't even it. That was just one of the 2.
All right, what's the other one?
More importantly, Shane Vereen. The Giants have still can prove that they have one of the best 2-minute drills in football. Every time the Giants get the ball, they're down against a pretty bad defense like the San Francisco 49ers, and sometimes at home, most of the times on the road. They drive down the field. And I've seen that happen to the Giants in their prevent defense, which I consider the worst defense in the history of football. I don't know why any team uses it. It never seems to work. That happens to them. They get driven down almost every time as a Giants fan. I know I'm delusional and I'm biased and all that crap. But regardless, here are the Giants wide receivers when Odell Beckham Jr. is out and Ruben Randle's out and Victor Cruz is still not healthy. Jeremy Davis, Geremey, Dwayne Harris, and Miles White.
Yeah.
Have either of you heard of either of those receivers before yesterday's game?
Who isn't a big Miles White fan?
I was going to say, everyone's picking up Miles White on the waiver wire this week. But who they did have is one of the better pass-catching backs, a product of Bill Belichick, one of those guys that you always see in like the Patriots offense, like, oh, Shane Vereen, 3 catches for 27 yards in an effort for the Patriots running attack, or at least from the backfield. Now on the Giants, he's been pretty good all year long. He is averaging 10.4 yards per catch every single time. I have the list here because it was great watching the Giants run that, and Vereen just, gets it in the flat and runs it for 16 yards, and then another one for 24, and then one for 11. Because the one time he tried,
And he had the one that he took him down to the 3 called back for a hold.
Yeah, there was the hold. There was also the pass interference call on Odell Beckham Jr., which is an obvious pass interference. But the one time they tried to throw it to Davis or Harris and it doesn't matter because you can swap out the name. It doesn't matter who he was trying to throw it to.
There's one way to tell them apart.
How is that? The last name on their jersey?
Counting the other guy.
Oh. So Eli Manning drops back and throws the loft pass to the back of the pylon, and of course he doesn't get there because it's Gurmy Davis. Who the hell is this guy going to be? But Shane Vereen, of course, and Larry Donnell made an amazing touchdown catch, but that drive doesn't happen if it wasn't for Shane Vereen being shifty in the middle of the field.
Yeah, we could give a Turk this week to Chris Collinsworth, I think, for correctly pointing out time often, because again, but it bared repeating. I think Chris Collinsworth's really good. Hey, Niners, cover 34. yeah. I mean, you just named those wide receivers. They got one guy who can make plays out of the backfield. Move something around. Watch that guy. I mean, if they'd been on Vereen and prevented those checkdowns, then I think the Niners walk out of there with a win, and the Giants with a the Giants with a staggering loss.
Or Gurmy Davis goes long for a 55-yard touchdown catch.
Yeah, but anyway, cover Vereen. I mean, you could make the Niners defense there a jerk of the week for not recognizing that when it was obvious to Collinsworth, and he made it wisely obvious to everybody else. All right, who you got, Dan?
As you said earlier, there are a lot of Turks this week. And I do have mine, but I'm going to do two quick honorable mentions. First of all, Devonta Freeman. Guy's got heart. Got to love it.
Is it Devonta or Devontae?
I think it's Devonta.
Okay, I think you're probably right.
But I may be wrong.
That's right.
But Falcon fans, stop saying in the comments we don't like the Falcons. We like the Falcons, but we can't talk about it every week. I like the Falcons. Well, okay. Dan likes the Falcons. Dan likes the Falcons. Dan went to college in Atlanta. He likes the Falcons.
I spent much of the last 12 years of my life going to Atlanta. I don't like the Falcons. I don't like Falcon fans either.
So now it's clarified.
Comment on that.
Dan likes the Falcons. Ben hates the Falcons.
I don't hate them. I just don't care about them. They're irrelevant to the NFL.
Ben thinks the Falcons are irrelevant. Okay. Second one, I got to mention Josh McCown, 457 yards. Cleveland had a great win. I had Cleveland. He looked fantastic. This is a guy, nobody likes Josh McCown. Nobody wants Josh McCown year after year. Everyone makes fun of Josh McCown. Manziel came in game 2. Everyone was like, why are they putting Josh McCown back in the game? I'm not going to lie. I was like, why are they putting Josh McCown back in the game?
Yeah, but he's the guy who gives them the best chance to win right now.
Yeah, he's the guy that gives them the best chance to win. So they put in Josh McCown, and guess what? He won. But my Turk of the week is going back to Thursday night, Matt Hasslebeck.
Sure.
Now, couple things. First of all, dude's 40 years old. Ben, that's like them telling us, they're like, hey, can you guys go in and play against J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney and get back there?
I can't even come in on Tuesdays and tape a sports.
Exactly.
Right.
I'm tired this morning.
Yeah, right.
So then the guy had a bacterial infection. He was in the hospital. He had 8.5 bags of fluid put into him. I mean,
that's something that I simply cannot relate to on this panel, is the idea of having a bacterial infection.
No.
That's not an age thing. You could get a bacterial
infection. No, I mean, I could, but that seems like it's more likely for the guys on the right and left of me on the panel than for the guy in the middle. I'm knocking on wood
just so you don't get a bacterial infection, because that was such a dumb thing to
say. So here's a guy who comes in. The team's in a lot of trouble. They're 1-2. They face 2 people in their division. He gets through the Jacksonville game and wins that game. Now he has to play against Houston, which is really the only team in that division that might theoretically beat them. So it's a huge, huge game. Nobody wants him to play either. They're dying for Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck cannot play. Matt Hasslebeck comes in. He goes 18 for 29, 213 yards, wins a huge, huge, huge game. Huge game.
Yep.
So before I leave you, let's show a picture of Jadeveon Clowney here and Matt Hasslebeck here. And you tell me which of these guys you want on your team playing football, and which of these guys do you want fixing your air conditioning?
So as I said, a lot of candidates for Turk of the Week. The Eli Manning, certainly possible. He threw 54 passes, only threw 13 incomplete passes. Right? If you take away balls that he threw away, I mean, literally almost every play he wanted. And this is without Beckham for a key portion of the fourth quarter.
Don't forget his very ballsy 11-yard scramble, and then also proved why quarterbacks slide.
Jesus. Man, he got knocked back like 9 yards by a defensive.
I really like the forward progress rule.
Yeah, the forward progress rule was super helpful there. Yeah, that big 11-yard scramble. By the way, I bet $50 to win $1,500 that Eli would score the first touchdown. They were at the 2. They were really in a position where that would have happened. So Eli, but a heck of a day, and leading that drive in that situation when they seemed beaten, especially without Randall and Beckham, 41 of 54 for 441 yards. He could have had another ball picked. I mean, that throw to White was a bad throw. Apart maybe White didn't cut the angle off right, being an inexperienced receiver. That's possible. But that ball easily could have been picked and maybe should have been picked, and that would have been the game. But leading that drive, and even that last throw was so great. I mean, Donnell made an unbelievable catch on that, a David Tyree-like catch for the Giants, and that ball was ready to move. He was holding the bottom third of the football, the lower third of the football, and when his butt hit, you figure if Collinsworth was right, if it moves at all,
it's not a catch.
So you could have given it to Donnell, too. I wrote him on the list, Eli and Donnell. Who else I included on the list, even I've done him before, too, is because you saw it in the Cardinals win. I love what Bruce Arians said the week before after. They gave that game to the Rams. The Rams are not an incompetent team in any way, but when you kick that many field goals, they dropped a touchdown pass. They dropped 2 key first downs. Carson Palmer airmailed a couple of open receivers on the last drive. Through the first 3 quarters until Gurley went nuts in the fourth quarter, the Cardinals dominated that game and were somehow behind because they're kicking field goals and the Rams were scoring touchdowns. But he said, okay, now we lost 1 at home. I hope these guys realize we got to get 2 back. We got to start winning on the road then. We are instantly they were focusing. He put it in easily relatable terms to them. And he was pissed that they had lost that game. And I like that. And they came out and they, I think they went off at 4.5 point favorites. Actually 5, come to think of it, over the Cardinals. That line moved a lot, but over the Lions, but they dominated that Detroit team. And so Steve Keim, the general manager, because you saw there, Andre Ellington came back, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, that guy's pretty good. That guy can play. And finding Chris Johnson, now putting him in first time in years where he's looked like an effective running back, and David Johnson. So they have 3 really effective running backs on that team, and 3 very effective wide receivers, and that defense is stacked despite losing Bowles and despite losing 2 starters 2 years ago and 2 more starters this year. That is a really well-run organization right now, and they look good. And I think that loss to the Rams is going to. I think that team's going to win the West this year. They're already 2 games up on Seattle, and I'm just overly impressed with them. Carson Palmer also, old school numbers, 11 of 14, but every pass was on the money. Yeah. He looked great. But none of those guys are the Turk of the Week. The Turk of the Week, because I've never done it. No one on this panel has done it, except maybe Rick Strom, and that does not count. But I'm going to give it to Jay Cutler.
What?
Wow.
I feel like I feel like I need to leave.
They were 9.5 point underdogs. They had no business winning in Kansas City, even with losing Charles. And like you said, John Fox, they went for it. They were like, let's see what happens if we try to win. And then he did a Jay Cutler thing, and he dropped that snap, right? And hit the ground. You're like, okay, there they are. And then he threw a beautiful pass to Matt Forte, who's also on my list. That was a beautiful, beautiful, spectacularly wonderful play. And really impressed with them. Those are 2 big wins they got. And they're not going to make the playoffs, but and I have a vested interest in every time they win. So I paid attention to that game. I'm not.
What was the over/under for their win total?
6.5 for the season. And after 3 games, I thought, they're going to go 1-15. But now that team may have 6-10 or 7-9 in them, and I would gladly take that. But that was an impressive win for the Bears on the road, 9.5 point underdog against the Chiefs, and I thought a really good win for Cutler.
Too bad that's going to get cut out of the clip.
Why?
Well, because Jay Cutler can't be Turk of the Week.
So note the date and time, Jay Cutler, Turk of the Week. But a lot of good performances, a lot of gutsy performances this week. And, we gloss over it because of the Manning numbers. But, who made that play was Larry Donnell. And that was that you don't get a better catch than that. Except
who made that block was Giants center number 70, opening up Shane Vereen to run 24 yards down the middle of the field.
I like Shane Vereen's high step at the end of that. The pointless high step.
No. So here, I said the same thing. My roommate pointed this out. His feeling was, he played football, his feeling was that he thought Vereen must have thought that there was a guy right behind him. He high-stepped because he thought someone was going for a shoestring tackle. So it was just what's it called, like a habit.
Yeah, I got you. So he was trying to avoid getting tripped from behind.
Which it looked really silly.
It looked silly. It didn't matter. It was all fine. He was getting that.
Yeah.
He got as far as he was going to get. And anyway, that's our Turks of the Week. Thanks for watching Turks and Jerks. Be sure to check out, what did we just do? Turks. Thanks for watching Turks and Jerks. These were the Turks of the Week. Check out our Jerks on another video on the site. What do we call it? Page? Channel?
YouTube channel.
On the YouTube channel.